Anybody entrusted to do work for or on behalf of the Australian people should act with the utmost of integrity and honesty. Unfortunately, it seems as though that hasn't been happening.
PwC has been facing the heat for months since it was revealed the accounting and consulting firm misused confidential government information to help big multinationals avoid paying more tax.
There are ongoing inquiries on foot by the Tax Practitioner Board, by the Australian Federal Police, continuing interest in PwC and its action by the ATO.
Now the results of its internal investigation have been released, finding the firm had a growth at all costs mindset, a lack of independent voices on its leadership boards, and that the CEO role had become too powerful and unaccountable.
Well, it's pretty plain. An outsider could have said, without further investigation, that PwC was only interested in profits. That's window dressing. The real problem here is the way in which these consultancies have taken over the bureaucracy. That's not being addressed by them at all.
Senator Deborah O'Neill is leading the push for transparency from the firm.
The cultural problems that are now known to the public and are backed in the section on culture recorded by Mr Switkowski have not gone away.
Today's report into PwC by Ziggy Switkowski identified a culture where revenue is king and partners who exceed financial targets are celebrated as heroes and rainmakers, and to whom the rules don't always apply. Dr Switkowski made 23 recommendations which PwC agreed to implement. They include overhauling its governance to meet ASX standards, appointing 3 non-executive board members, giving the board the power to fire the CEO, and publishing audited financial statements. Senator O'Neill says the board doesn't go far enough, nor were its terms broad enough.
We've got a failure there of a desire to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you have a look at the numbers, that there are 71 mentions of the CEO by title, but no mention of the CEO's names. Now, for the entire period that we know that this matter was on foot, there were 2 CEOs. One of them was Mr Luke Sayers, and the other one was Mr Tom Seymour. In Mr Switkowski's review, neither of them get a mention.
The report comes as a Senate inquiry examining the tax leak scandal yesterday heard from the ATO's Jeremy Hershorn, who said PwC's former CEO Luke Sayers was warned about the ATO's concerns in 2019.
In my discussions with Mr Sayers, I communicated that we had come across various concerning emails across a range of issues, and I suggested that he look through those emails. I thought that the matters that I had raised were of sufficient concern that the firm would respond.
Luke Sayers says he didn't recall that conversation, nor was he aware Peter Collins had breached confidentiality agreements. The saga began back in 2013 when PwC partner Peter Collins gave advice to Treasury on new laws to prevent multinational corporations from exploiting tax loopholes. He signed a confidentiality agreement. It was later revealed Mr Collins breached that agreement by sharing information with PwC staff and clients to help them allegedly sidestep new tax laws. In early 2021, a body called the Tax Practitioners Board began investigating. In October of 2022, Peter Collins left PwC and he was soon deregistered for integrity breaches. A federal Senate inquiry began to examine the scandal this March. In May, internal PwC emails were released which showed several of Peter Collins' colleagues were aware he was leaking the government documents. A police investigation was also launched, and PwC commissioned an independent internal investigation by former Telstra boss Ziggy Switkowski. In the coming months, the firm would replace its CEO, stand down 9 of its partners, and sell off the government consulting arm of its business for $1. PwC CEO was not available for an interview with 7:30, instead releasing a pre-recorded video message.
The independent review highlights a failure of leadership, both by individuals and as a firm. What happened is unacceptable. The failures identified should never have been allowed to take place. I'm sorry. PwC Australia is sorry.
There is no line in the sand to be drawn here. An apology at this late stage is something, but it's certainly not enough. And it certainly doesn't put an end to the matter.
Geoffrey Watson says bigger questions remain over the government's reliance on consultants.
Our governments, not just the federal government, all of our governments need to wean themselves off this dependence that they have on consultancies, external consultancies, as soon as possible. And they need to restore faith that decision-making is being taken by people who've got their first and only duty to serve the public rather than private profit.